Fellas, AC here. Welcome to another video. I do apologize. I've been out of the scene for a while. This new year has started for me with a lot of work and I had to give it importance because it was heavy duty work. So, sorry once again. I have not been able to respond to even the comments. But I'm back, I hope. There's too much work at the moment. So, this video is an interesting one because it's not been done before. And it's talking about one of the most expensive Roja fragrances. One of the most, not the most. Diaghilev. It retails for £750 for 100 ml. It was released in 2011. And I'm pitching this against a fragrance which I was testing. Amouage Jubilation for women. That was released in 2008 or maybe 2007. And retails for about 150. Okay? So, I feel that these two fragrances are very similar. Not very, but quite similar. And when you're talking about a £750 fragrance, if you find a £150 alternative, it starts to make sense. So, let's start. So, Diaghilev, let's start with Diaghilev. Roja. I love it. It's supposed to be an interpretation of classical French fruity floral chypre. It smells exactly like that. I got a 5 ml decant. It cost me £50. It is not cheap. And it is inspired by, since he used to work for Guerlain, it is supposed to be, a lot of people will say this to you, it is supposed to be inspired by Mitsauko, by Guerlain, which was released way back in 1921, I believe. Or maybe I got the year wrong, in the 1920s. Could be 29. I don't know. So, and Mitsauko is based on the idea of a floral chypre, fruity floral chypre. So, Diaghilev, again, inspired by Mitsauko, but ends up smelling a bit like Amouage, quite a bit like Amouage Jubilation for women. And the reason is, there are 8 notes in common. Diaghilev has 31 notes, Jubilation for women, written down on Fragrantica has 12, I think it's more than that. Because you can't make a fragrance like this, by just 12 notes. They're much, much more than that. So common notes, ylang ylang. Both fragrances have a very heavy dose of one of the most beautiful interpretations of ylang ylang. I love that. I use it in my bath. It is amazing. Ylang ylang is very invigorating. Next, musk, then rose, huge quantities, labdanum, vetiver, patchouli, quite a bit of patchouli, tarragon, and lemon. So these are the common notes. Now let's start with what Diaghilev does. It's a chypre, fruity floral chypre. It has got tons of citrus notes at the top. So it's got lemon, bergamot, lime, it's got orange, tons of other notes which I can't remember. That's the opening. It's very fizzy, lemony, mossy, and very, very resinous and quite dirty. Both these fragrances are inspired by after sex smell. You know, as if you've had sex and your partner's had sex and you've just gone to bed, woken up next morning, and you're remembering the beautiful, passionful night you've had, along with all the beautiful smell and the smell of having had sex. A lot of, you know the idea. So both these fragrances are inspired by that smell. And both fragrances are very dirty, romantic and sexy and amorous and all the other adjectives you can think of. It's completely inspired, totally inspired by sex. So both these fragrances, so they are very dirty. So after that fizzy notes, it brings in florals. So it's got jasmine, lily of the valley. Roja loves lily of the valley, rose, and that massive ylang ylang, huge ylang ylang. And then there's this beautiful, fleshy, almost human flesh-like feel, but smell of peach. And peach is what is there in Mitsauko. And then there's this animalic, dirty side with tons of woods. Woods are sandalwood and gaiac Beautiful, beautiful gaiac in the dry down, along with patchouli and musk. Musk and patchouli, it's a superb combination along with sandalwood and gaiac. And then it's very dirty. So it's got this huge amount of castoreum, which gives the fragrance amazing amount of depth and volume, very resinous, very animalic. And along with that castoreum, there's this touch of leather, if you like, just to emulate the warmth of human skin. It's very amorous, very sexual. This fragrance is an out and out testimony to the art of lost perfumery that the French used to do in the 1920s and 30s, even 40s. That art is what it's paying salute to, because Diaghilev was one of the most well-known critics, art critics, coming out of Russia at the turn of the last century. And he was abandoned by the Bolsheviks. He was abandoned by the communist Russia because he just didn't want to go back to the Russia after the Bolshevik Revolution. And he did a lot of work here in the UK. He's very famous in the ballet scene. So he basically, this scent tries to create a bygone era of classical French perfumery with tons and tons of complexity. This fragrance is absolutely loaded with complexity. And one note I forgot to mention is aldehydes. There's heavy use of aldehyde, almost like smelling Chanel number 5, along with tons and tons and tons of animalic charisma. This fragrance is very complex and very beautifully made. Just very sexual. Now, let's talk about this lady here. Jubilation for women is not feminine. Both these fragrances are not feminine. They can be easily worn by a man and very courageous young lady or a very powerful elderly lady. This is made for people with a lot of success under the belt and few gray hairs. Jubilation for women, I think I should be calling it. That's how it was written. So this fragrance is again centered around classical, floral, fruity chypre. But this one has more emphasis on herbal side of it. There's a big note of myrrh. Apart from the 8 notes I told you, the big note of myrrh, which is absent in the Diaghilev, makes the fragrance very earthy, and there's a massive dose of cumin. Instead of castoreum adds this animalic depth, complexity, fruitiness to it. Castoreum can give off vibes of like blackcurrant or some kind of a sour, fleshy fruit. Here, the fleshy fruitiness is there because ylang ylang is a central player, but it brings in cumin, a lot of cumin, huge amounts of cumin. And then wormwood. Wormwood gives it the fleshy woodiness. Apart from, I think wormwood is a common note in a lot of Amouage fragrances, because I think Amouage brings in that freshy woody feel along with the spicy, smoky incense, if you like. So olibanum and myrrh are there in big quantities, which is different to what you get in the Diaghilev, but the result, the smell of the air is very similar. Very similar in the dry down. The kind of smell I'm getting, this is more fresher, more airier version of the Diaghilev, if you like. Yeah, as I said, the Diaghilev has got tons and tons of depth. This also has depth, but it's basically much lighter and airier as compared to Roja. So that's the composition of the fragrance. It will take a bit of time because it's very big. Both these fragrances are very big. So similarities. Both are very complex. Both are statement makers. This fragrance is not for your day-to-day. It's wear, and this is quite difficult to pull off. It's very heavy. And I think it's a winter evening time fragrance. Both these fragrances, very similar. Now coming to the differences. Obviously the performance is a big difference. The Diaghilev on my skin lasts 24 hours plus, one spray. This is extremely powerful and extremely strong. Yeah. And it also changes a lot. Now, performance wise on the projection and sillage, Amouage 8 to 10 hours of longevity, sillage quite good. I would say 4 to 5 hours. This one probably 8 hours of sillage, longevity 24 plus. The Diaghilev's projection is probably the same as Amouage because it's so heavy. I don't see it jumping off too much, but it does. You will smell it whenever you move. That indicates to me it's got tremendous amounts of sillage. Projection, I would say both have about 2 to 3 hours. I wouldn't go heavy with either because it's just too difficult to pull off. It's just too much for the nose. Now, the another one, age groups. Both fragrances are quite mature. I would say, as I said, you should have a few gray hairs to pull this off. I'd say 35 plus. It just is a very serious, very different genre of perfumery. It's not one of those fragrances where you want to wear something to get compliments. You want to wear this to make a statement. Yeah, you want to wear this to completely stand out, irrespective of the fact that there's a lot of animalic tone to both these fragrances, but it doesn't smell like as you have not washed. It gives the fragrance a little bit of a X factor, surprise element, I don't care kind of element. I'm so filthy rich I couldn't care to wash, that kind of an element. So those are the similarities and differences. Now I've talked about everything. I've talked about season, age groups, prices. Now, for me, will I own? Which one will I own? See, the thing is, I know that it's very, very difficult to afford a £750 fragrance when you have a large collection, right? Because when you have a large collection, the mentality is to try as many as possible. But I still think, and another thing I forgot to mention is, Diaghilev, in spite of having these 32 notes or 31 notes, in spite of using one of the best raw materials, we all know that, it was a bit underwhelming for me. When you have something like this, after 3 or 4 wears, it gets a bit underwhelming because you know the scent. But when you're wearing a £750 fragrance, you want it every time you wear it, it should be something different. And I know Amouages do that for me. This didn't do it, so it was a bit underwhelming. Amouage, £150, what you get is an incredible fragrance. And don't worry about it being marketed towards women. Everybody talks about Jubilation for man. Nobody talks about, excuse me, Jubilation for women. I bet you try this, you will see for yourself. Do sample it, see for yourself how fantastic the scent is. Even if it wasn't similar to Diaghilev, you should still try it, because this fragrance has got this amazing interpretation of an aldehydic, fruity floral chypre. Less aldehyde, more cumin. So if you have a problem with cumin body odor smell, ignore this one. It has got oodles of it. But still, if you don't have a problem with those kind of things, just give it a try. Just see how wonderfully this fragrance has been made. It's a beautiful fragrance, only for experienced noses, only for people who like classical French perfumery. So my verdict, which one would I go for? See, the thing is, once I run out of this, if I get a nice priced bottle of Diaghilev, I might go for it, because I really like it. But as I said, I wouldn't spend $750. If I got a discounted bottle somewhere, half full, whatever, I'll get it, because I really think I should have it in my collection. I really like this decant. I've had this for many years now, and whenever the mood takes me, I spray one and I enjoy. It's quite a journey. I'll definitely get a bottle of Jubilation for women, because I think it will be a fantastic addition to my collection. I love it. I love the depth, the complexity, the offering for such a little price point. Jubilation for women is for people who love French perfumery. Do give it a try. Hope you like the review, fellas. Take care. Bye-bye.